Quick, there are quite a few limited deals going on right now, both for flights and hotels. So let's jump right in. The first bonus that we're going to talk about today is this transfer bonus from Capital One over to British Airways, where there is a 20% transfer bonus that ends on November 22. So there's lots of different ways to move your Avios between British Airways, Iberia, Finnair, Aer Lingus, and Qatar. But for today, we're going to focus on how to find deals with British Airways specifically. Seats.aero does not support British Airways, so what I like to use here is Roam. If you go to roam.travel and then you go to flights, and then click on British Airways Executive Club, it'll show you a whole bunch of deals that you can book on British Airways, and you can filter to business or first class for how many people you need. I'm going to search for just flights departing out of the United States, and I'm just going to search for flights over to Europe. You can set up a 2-month time search here, so let's search from December through the end of January. You can also set up a whole bunch of other filters, like if you just want one stop or fewer, if you're okay with mixed economy and business and where it has to be at least 80% business. Since there are usually pretty high fees with British Airways, let's set the maximum fees to $160 per person one way. And let's say we don't want to pay more than 110,000 points. So I don't know why this is glitching on the fees thing. So if we search like this, then we see there are some deals in December and January where you can fly from the US over to Europe, and they're pretty cheap. Like here, there's a flight from Boston going through Shannon, Ireland, and this is operated by Aer Lingus, and it lands in London. This is only 48,000 some points plus $147 in taxes and fees, which is much better than what we would normally find on some kind of flight from Boston to London. This one does have the disadvantage that it connects through Ireland instead of being a straight shot, because there are tons of direct flights between Boston and London. But if you're okay with saving a bunch of points and taxes by taking this quick connection, then once you take into account the 20% transfer bonus with Capital One, we would take 48,083 miles and divide that by 1.2. So you really only need a little bit more than 40,000 miles in order to fly this from Boston over to London if you take advantage of the Capital One transfer bonus over to British Airways. Now, before you ever transfer any miles over with a transfer bonus or something, always best to check with the airline that you actually see the award availability you want. So here we are going to log into British Airways, hover over book, then click book a flight with Avios. We're going to search from Boston to London on the date that Rome found, which was December 5th. And there's also this weird glitch with British Airways where you always have to pick the day after. So I'm going to search on December 6th, and it's going to give us results for December 5th. Select business class for one adult, then go ahead and click get flights. And so here, even though we said December 6th, it does show December 5th, and there is this flight available from Boston over to Shannon, over to London, one business class seat left at the time that I'm searching this, and it does show the same results as on Rome. So on Rome, it says it's 48,000 because they take into account the transfer bonus already. So with British Airways, it's actually 57,000 miles, almost 58,000 plus 148 in taxes and fees. So keep in mind with Rome, this is the price that already takes into account the transfer bonus. Do not accidentally do what I did where you divide that by 1.2 because you're going to come up short. You're going to use 48,000 points, which then turns into 57.7, and then you can book this flight. If you have a particular trip that you are looking to book with points, you can request a free personalized tutorial by going to geobreezetravel.com/request. We prepare one free tutorial every week through our free newsletter. So make sure you check our newsletter every Monday to see if your request was picked and prepared. Next up, we're covering a transfer bonus that I've never seen before. It has some of the sweetest of sweet spots in Asia, but also comes with a unique set of challenges to find and book the flights. The next bonus we're going to cover is a transfer bonus that I've never seen before. There is a transfer bonus of Amex over to ANA, and it's a 15% bonus through the end of November. Now keep in mind, the thing with ANA is that the transfers are not instant at all. It's going to take 2 to 3 days for your points to transfer over. So what you need to do is find the availability, move your points over, pray, and then search again 3 days later once your points post, and then redeem from there. Some people will speculatively transfer over their points to ANA if they really, really want to fly the suite or something like that, just so that they can jump on it whenever it becomes available. I don't recommend doing that, especially for beginners, but if you're more advanced, here is how to search for the flights if you want to speculatively transfer. But again, I don't recommend doing that. So on seats.aero, there are a couple ways to do this. They don't directly support ANA, but they do have this tool called ANA First Class Finder. And here, it'll show partners that have ANA availability. Like for example, you can search Aeroplan, Virgin Velocity, which we don't have access to in the United States. But I hear that sometimes if you find it on Virgin Velocity, you could search, or you could call Virgin Atlantic and see if they're seeing the same availability, or you could book this on United, but it's going to be very expensive. So let's try one of these. Let's say that you wanted to fly from Chicago over to Narita. There might be one seat left in ANA First Class on November 18. So what you'll do is you'll sign into ANA, and then you're going to search one way, and this one's going to be Chicago over to Tokyo, and the date was November 18. This is going to be in first class for one person, and we want to compare seat availability plus or minus 3 days. So your search fields will look like this. Then we're going to go ahead and click search. And so here it'll say that there are seats available on each of these days. Let's check November 18, click confirm, but there are no seats for the class selected, and so it will just show waitlisted here. I don't recommend the waitlist game, once again, especially for beginners, but if you're like, I really want to fly first class the suite, I'm willing to risk it. It's only 85,000 miles plus $178 in taxes and fees. And with that transfer bonus, 85,000 points divided by 1.15 means you only really need to transfer over about 74,000 points in order to fly this. This is a very, very high cents per point redemption, because if we were to look up this flight on Google Flights and we're searching one way in first class from Chicago over to Narita, the date for this flight would have been November 18. It's in first class, and we are going to filter the Google Flight results down to ANA as the only airline. Here we see that's about a $14,000 flight. So if you can get that for 74,000 points, approximately rounding down, that's about 19 cents per point, which is crazy. I personally don't like playing the speculative game of moving points over when there's a transfer bonus and then hoping to find something like this where it's not waitlisted, because spoilers, I checked a whole bunch of other dates around this, and I also checked pretty much everything on seats.aero, and these were not actually turning up on ANA. But if you want to play the speculative game, some people will risk it all to book one of these suites. Rome.travel does also directly support ANA if you click on flights and then ANA Mileage Club. But when I was searching United States over to Tokyo, and I would do this in 2-month increments, filter for ANA Mileage Club for business or first class, even just for one person, I was not coming up with anything for the full year. If you want to find this kind of availability or have somebody to find it for you, I do recommend just subscribing to the free Rome.travel newsletter, because here they had business class from Houston to Tokyo for 60,000 points with Virgin Atlantic, with directions that you would have to call and check if the availability was still there. But it does save you the headache from doing things like this, because even though I searched a whole bunch of different days, I'm not currently seeing any availability in business or first class. So it's up to you if you want to take advantage of the transfer bonus, and then just wait until Rome sends you some notifications, and you have to be very, very flexible with your dates if you want to play that game. Up next, let's cover a hotel point sale for a hotel chain that normally goes under the radar. All right, the next deal that we're going to cover is this Wyndham point sale, where they are selling points for 0.65 cents each. Now, if you wanted to book these with regular points, you could transfer over Capital One miles or Citi Thank You points, and I would recommend using Capital One instead, because both transfer at a 1-to-1 ratio, but Capital One tends to transfer over a little bit faster. But let's say you want to reserve your Capital One miles for that British Airways deal or for some other transfer partner that they have. Since Capital One miles do transfer to a variety of different airlines like Air Canada, Avianca, Cathay Pacific, Choice Hotels, etc. So then you could purchase points on sale with Wyndham and then redeem them for a Wyndham stay. It is becoming pretty difficult to find great deals with different search aggregation tools, because Rooms.aero does not support Wyndham. They just have Choice, IHG, Hilton, Marriott, and World of Hyatt. And with Airways, if we search for any given hotel on the Wyndham site and we try to look at their award calendar, the award availability calendar is not supported by Wyndham properties, so we can't just go through and see what are the best days to book with points. So if you want to do this deal, I would recommend searching on Wyndham's website first for the particular hotel you want to stay at, and then seeing if it's a good deal. Here's how you do the math. So we're going to go to wyndhamhotels.com, and let's say that we want to search for a hotel in New York City around October of next year. We'll go ahead and click search. And I wish they would just put these prices right next to each other side by side, because there's price and points, but you kind of have to just write down the price and then compare the points price. For example here, the Wyndham Garden Chinatown, it goes for $398 per night, or you could book it with Wyndham points, where it would be 30,000 points per night. Is that a good deal? Maybe. Because with this promotion, if you wanted to buy a bunch of Wyndham points, you can buy them for 0.65 cents each as the starting price. Or according to this Award Wallet article, some members are only targeted for an 80% bonus, which would kind of suck if you don't get the full 100% bonus. And that means that you are buying points at 0.72 cents each instead of 0.65. So I'd recommend Googling Award Wallet by Wyndham points promotion, and then you'll see this article, and then you can click on the promo to see what you're targeted for. But assuming that you can buy points at 0.65 cents per point, and that's the bucket you would fall into if you're buying any meaningful amount of points, because I don't know who's just buying 1,000 or 2,000 Wyndham points at a time. But let's say you wanted to spend one night at that New York Wyndham hotel. 30,000 points times 0.0065 means you're effectively getting the hotel stay for $195 per night instead of spending the full price, which is nearly twice that. If you want some other ideas for best ways to use Wyndham points as well, I would just Google Wyndham Hotel Sweet Spots, and there's this pretty good upgraded points articles where the redemptions are 30,000 points, but you can stay at the New Yorker sometimes, which is supposed to be up to $600 per night. Wyndham Grand Clearwater in Florida, where it's about $600 per night. Wyndham Grand in Istanbul. So a lot of these, you can effectively buy the points for 0.65 cents per point and then turn around and redeem them for close to 2 cents per point, which is a pretty good savings. And this type of deal is also great because it doesn't require having any special credit cards. It's just a matter of doing a math problem of, is it cheaper to just buy the hotel you want to stay at or buy the points and then redeem those points for the hotel stay. Our last tutorial covers another points deal, but the math can get tricky on whether or not it's a good deal, based on the pricing for some of their sweet spot redemptions. And if you are interested in leveling up your points game and getting even more free trips and upgrades, and some next level strategies, we have a couple of options for you. The first one is the GeoBreeze Travel Patreon, which you can join starting at just $5 per month through patreon.com/GeoBreezeTravel. Each month, we prepare personalized step-by-step tutorials for the routes that our members request. We also provide open forum group coaching. You can ask any questions that you have about points, miles, and credit cards in general. And also, we talk through some of the tips and tricks that don't really make it onto social media. Or if you're looking to get even more travel with your points, and you're a business owner or individual who spends more than $100,000 per year on your expenses, we typically save our clients more than $30,000 in travel in the first 6 to 12 months of working with our one-on-one points portfolio management service. If that sounds like something that you would be interested in, book a free intro call with us at geobreezetravel.com/intro call to learn more. Okay, now let's talk about if buying Lufthansa miles is a good deal or if you should generate those points a different way. All right, the last deal that I want to talk about today is this deal where you can purchase Lufthansa miles and more miles with a 50% bonus, which means the price starts at 1.41 cents per mile. So 1 Mile at a Time has a really good article on this where it doesn't sell miles like most programs do. They sell them in bundles. So that means if you want to get the 1.41 cents per mile price, you do need to spend at least $2,000 because you need to buy a bundle of 150,000 Lufthansa miles. So you can't top up or just buy the number of miles that you want. You can either buy 15,000 miles for $300, which is 2 cents per mile. You could buy 75,000 miles for $1,200, which is 1.6 cents per mile, or you could buy 150,000 miles for $2,110, which is 1.41 cents per mile. And then with that, you also get some bonuses with like Avis and Priority Pass and hotels and cars, but let's just say those have no inherent value because you just want the miles on Lufthansa so that you can book some pretty good good sweet spots over to Europe. Now, we have a pretty recent video on this of how to find all the different sweet spots with Lufthansa if you just search for GeoBreeze travel miles and more on YouTube, where you can oftentimes find flights over to Europe for 62.5 thousand points. And a lot of these have very high taxes and fees, but sometimes you can also find some where the taxes are only €100 or so. So if you find something where you will need exactly 150,000 miles, go ahead and spend the $2,100. 1.41 cents per mile is not that bad. Just make sure that you have found the award availability first. Alternatively, if you want to purchase a specific number of miles that isn't exactly 15,000, 75,000, or 150,000, I would recommend generating some miles on Rove. So what you want to do is sign up at rovemiles.com/geobreeze, and then once you're on the home page, you're going to click on hotels, and then you're going to search for a relatively low-cost area. So let's say Phuket, Thailand. And then from here, I'm going to pick some random date, and then go ahead and click on search. And then here you're going to sort by highest miles multiplier. And so we see the Patong Diamond Hotel. It would be $700 and you would get 62 miles per dollar, so you'd end up with a total of 43,000 miles. This can be a little bit more convenient if you are trying to only get 62,000 miles or something, where you piece together a couple of these. Technically, it would be cheaper on a cents per mile basis to just purchase with Lufthansa, but if you need a certain number of miles and you're like, I don't want to spend $2,000, I only really need 100,000 points instead of 150,000. Playing around with Rove Miles and doing a prepaid hotel and earning points this way and transferring them over to Miles and More can be a little bit more of an advantage. P.S. If you do this on prepaid, you'll get the points instantly. You can transfer them instantly. Your miles may vary, but I do sometimes experiment with these where I've booked hotels that I have not stayed at. So again, your miles may vary if that works for you or not, but if you want to generate some Miles and More points, Rove is the way to go because nothing else transfers over to Lufthansa at this time, and purchasing miles like this can be a little bit of a headache since it is in flat increments and you can't just buy the number of points that you need. I hope you found these tutorials useful. Also, let me know what other types of tutorials you would like to see. Suggestions for future topics are always welcome. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll enjoy this video next.